Picture a sky burning this unnatural, completely silent green.
Oh, wow.
Right. It's a flame that casts absolutely no warmth, and it's washing over this magnificent civilization. We're talking white crystal towers, hammered gold domes, aqueducts that are like shimmering like silver veins.
It's absolute perfection.
Exactly. You're looking at a society that has completely mastered existence. I mean, airships drifting on engineered ether, no disease, no uncertainty, no chaos, just total mastery.
A literal utopia.
Yeah. But that green aurora, it is not the wrath of some angry god, because in the very next instant, those crystal towers don't just fall, they actually shatter inward.
Crushed by invisible hands.
Crushed. Matter just unravels into these threads of pure light, and it dissolves into a pale blue honeycomb of like infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
The civilization isn't just destroyed, it's cleanly, mathematically removed from the equation of reality.
Total temporal erasure. Just gone.
Gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, instantly snap your mind away from that. Forget the cosmic unmaking. Forget the crystal spires. Instead, put yourself on a freezing, wet, gray morning in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, man. Talk about whiplash.
Right. It's March 20th, the vernal equinox. The wind off Lake Erie has teeth. And a municipal road worker named Doug Weapon is waking up.
Just a totally regular guy.
Totally regular. He's choking on the phantom memory of seawater. He's got this brutal cold weather arthritis in his knuckles, a hangover from a late night Dungeons and Dragons session that went until like 3 a.m.
We've all been there.
Yeah. And now he's facing another grueling shift, driving a salt truck to patch potholes.
It's such a jarring juxtaposition, right?
Yeah.
But that contrast is what's the entire engine of the narrative we were looking at today.
It really is. You were looking at two wildly different ends of a cosmic mechanism. So welcome to our deep dive into the source material for the sixth mass extinction.
We have a lot of ground to cover.
We do. We are going to unpack this mind-bending sci-fi narrative where cosmic probability, ancient buried architecture, and the actual fate of reality itself all hinge on a guy who literally drives a salt truck for a living.
It's incredible.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because we are dealing with a story that blends this intense archaeological conspiracy with, like, high-level quantum physics. It forces you to really question the actual ground beneath your feet.
Well, the foundational premise here, and what's so fascinating, is that mass extinctions are not random.
Right.
They aren't ecological disasters or asteroid strikes. They are deliberate, scheduled maintenance.
Scheduled maintenance. That is terrifying.
It is. The universe in this story operates a lot like an overburdened computer system. It's running a factory reset to prevent a localized error from, crashing the entire operating system.
Okay, so to understand that operating system, we have to go back to that green sky. Exactly. The prologue of our source material drops us into the final night of Atlantis. And this is exactly 12,000 years ago. We're seeing this through the eyes of the high priest, who is standing in the Temple of the Gate.
Which is built on these massive basalt columns.
Right.
Over bedrock that's older than the island itself.
Yeah, and it houses this thing called the monolith. But here's the crazy part. The high priest isn't panicking.
Not at all.
He's not trying to fight this miles-high wall of black water rising from the ocean. He is actively facilitating it. He's doing a blood sacrifice that ignites these immense geometric sigils on the temple floor.
You really have to look at the motivation behind that sacrifice, though. Because the Atlanteans, they had been warned, right, never to speak the names.
Right, the names.
Because names implied dominion.
Yeah.
And dominion implied control. Atlantis had just become too advanced. They believed they understood the universe so perfectly that they stopped exploring probability and started fixing it.
Wait, slow down. When you say they started fixing probability, do you mean like repairing it? Or fixing it in place, making it rigid?
The latter, making it absolutely certain.
Okay.
Certainty is the corruption in this system. The cosmic logic dictates that the universe requires infinite possibilities to remain stable.
So it needs chaos, or at least potential.
Exactly. Potential. The overarching system operates on this vast mathematical cycle, specifically a 12,000-year cycle.
Right, with previous markers stretching way back into deep time. I've got the numbers here. It's 288,000 years, 144,000, 72,000, 36,000.
Do you see the pattern there?
I mean, I'm looking at those numbers. 288, 144, 72, 36. That's a halving sequence.
Yes.
Are you saying the universe is speeding up the timeline between these resets?
The math strongly implies it. Because as biological and technological evolution accelerates, a civilization's ability to impose its will on the environment compounds exponentially.
Okay, that makes sense.
So when a civilization achieves too much mastery, when they basically mistake their brilliance for total control, They force the future into a single, predictable line.
Like quantum mechanics.
Exactly like that. In quantum mechanics, observing a particle collapses its wave function from multiple possibilities into a single reality. Now, scale that up.
Scale it up to an entire species.
Right, an entire species manipulating gravity, biology, energy. The system just cannot tolerate that kind of rigidity. It creates a computational bottleneck.
So it has to clear the cache.
Yes, it triggers a correction.
Man, so it really is like a cosmic hard drive defragmentation.
I love that analogy.
Think about it like you are playing a procedurally generated video game, like Minecraft or No Man's Sky.
Oh yeah, where the map generates as you walk.
Exactly. The map is supposed to be infinite. But if a massive civilization of players builds millions of permanent, incredibly complex structures all over one specific server, they are eating up all the RAM.
They lag out the server.
They lag it out. The universe gets bloated with the civilization's certainty, the code gets bogged down by too many fixed variables, and this monolith acts as a factory reset button to keep the whole server from crashing.
That analogy holds up beautifully when you actually look at the visual representation of the lattice in the text.
Yeah, the honeycomb thing.
Yes. When that monolith unfolds in the prologue, space literally bends inward along these invisible seams. And the high priest sees the honeycomb lattice behind the world.
Just millions of possible Atlantean futures.
Exactly. Atlantis expanding to the stars, Atlantis devouring itself, all of it flickering in these overlapping geometries of pale blue light. But because of their certainty, those probabilities were collapsing.
Which forces the system's hand.
Right. The gate, this ancient antediluvian interface, connects the physical three-dimensional world directly to this probability matrix.
And the high priest, this is the wild part, he even whispers the final words of the covenant, not in terror, but in gratitude.
He knows they messed up.
Yeah, he understands that they reached too far. The gate is simply answering that overreach.
He recognizes the system is removing the civilization to reopen the pathways of infinite possibility.
It's just doing its job.
Exactly. And as this happens, as the matter of Atlantis vanishes into the lattice, the narrative reveals two transtemporal entities.
Oh, the presences.
Yes, the presences. They're just watching from beyond time. They observe the convergence and note that the pattern holds.
They actually say, another future waited to be observed.
Right. It establishes the 12,000-year balance and correction protocol as the foundational rule of this entire universe.
Okay, but if this cosmic cycle is like a fundamental law of physics, there must be a fossil record of it, right?
You'd think so.
I mean, we shouldn't just be taking a mythological high priest's word for it. There has to be evidence left behind in the dirt when the server resets.
Well, there is. And that takes us out of the mythic past and right into the modern timeline.
Let's go.
We have to examine the suppressed excavation beneath the Homeric layers of Troy. This happened 30 years before the main events of the story.
Okay, so this centers on two brilliant young archaeologists, Dr. Alexander Greaves and Thomas Hale. Now, for anyone who hasn't brushed up on their Bronze Age history lately, the real-world site of Troy isn't just one city. It's this massive mound of sediment containing 9 distinct layers of cities.
Built right on top of each other.
Yeah, from Troyite all the way to Troyanikes. But Greaves and Hale were digging deeper. They bypassed the known historical sediment entirely.
They penetrated into geological strata that absolutely should not contain human artifacts.
And what they found was a chamber that completely defied geological and historical sense.
Completely. We're talking about perfect 90-degree angles carved into bedrock, geometric carvings featuring phi spirals and golden ratios.
Let's unpack why that is so terrifying in this context. A golden ratio, or a phi spiral, is a mathematical constant found all over nature.
Like in a nautilus shell.
Yeah, the shell, or the shape of a hurricane, or the arrangement of leaves on a stem.
Yeah.
It's the universe's blueprint for growth and balance.
Right.
So to find it carved with machine-like precision into rock that has been buried for tens of thousands of years, I mean, it implies you aren't looking at human art.
No, you are looking at the structural constants of the universe, rendered in stone.
It's the architecture of reality exposed.
And the sensory details of that discovery are what truly sell the horror of it.
The hum.
The hum, yes. It wasn't just a visual anomaly. They experienced this low, constant hum. But it wasn't a sound wave traveling through the air and hitting the eardrums.
It was in their bones. Right.
Exactly. The text describes it as a vibration that bypassed the ears entirely and settled directly into the marrow of their bones.
Ugh. That makes my skin crawl.
It was a frequency that made the human body aggressively aware it was standing in the presence of something outside its dimensional understanding.
How does a three-dimensional human brain even process a four-dimensional or higher dimensional probability overlap?
It really can't.
Think of the classic thought experiment, Flatland.
Oh, I love Flatland.
Right. If you have a two-dimensional stick figure living on a flat piece of paper and a three-dimensional sphere passes through their paper world, the stick figure doesn't see a sphere.
No, it just sees a line or a circle.
It just sees a circle mysteriously appear, grow larger, and then shrink into nothingness. The 2D brain literally lacks the hardware to comprehend the 3D shape.
That's a perfect way to describe it. Greaves is standing in that chamber, and his 3D brain is trying to process a tear in the probability matrix.
And Greaves leans in.
Of course he does.
His scientific curiosity overrides his primal terror. He gets closer than his instinct is screaming at him to go, and his fingers brush one of the carved symbols.
And for a fraction of a second, reality overlaps.
He feels something occupying the same space from a different alignment,
Something watching him.
but not watching his physical hand.
No, it's watching the act of his consciousness making contact. He tears his hand back, and the hum collapses instantly into silence.
This is a devastating illustration of the observer effect in quantum mechanics, scaled up to a macro cosmic level.
Precisely. In physics, an unobserved particle exists in a state of superposition. It could be anywhere doing anything.
But the act of measuring it, of observing it,
Forces it to choose a state. Yes. The gate is not a dormant relic waiting to be found in the dirt. It is highly reactive.
it responds to being perceived.
The very act of human observation pulls the observer into alignment with the gate. Greaves didn't just touch a stone. His consciousness interacted with the probability matrix.
And that reaction terrifies them so deeply that they make a radical choice.
They go publish.
They don't call the press. They bury it.
They fill the chamber with dirt before sunrise.
They seal the excavation and vow never to speak of it again. Greaves retreats into a safe, comfortable life in conventional academia, giving, safe lectures about sediment.
But Hale,
Yeah, Hale takes a completely different path. He essentially becomes a digital ghost.
he adopts the online moniker Pillar 43, which is a brilliant reference to a real-world archaeological anomaly at Göbekli Tepe.
A site known for turning our understanding of human timelines completely upside down.
Exactly. So Hale spends the next 3 decades as an anonymous user on fringe internet forums.
Leaving breadcrumbs.
He leaves incredibly dense, cryptographically layered posts about structural anomalies, halving times, and 12,000-year cycles.
Okay, I have to push back on Hale's logic here because it feels deeply irresponsible.
How so?
If Thomas Hale was so profoundly terrified of the gate at Troy that he buried it in the middle of the night, risking his career to keep it a secret, why on earth is he spending 30 years posting clues about it on Reddit-style message boards?
Well, you have to.
I mean, isn't that the exact equivalent of burying a live nuclear weapon, but tweeting out the GPS coordinates and a manual on how to arm it?
It seems like a massive contradiction, I agree. But you have to analyze Hale's psychology and his understanding of the math he saw in that chamber.
Okay, what math?
Hale knows the cycle is structural. It is an inevitable mechanism of the universe. He knows he cannot stop the 12,000-year clock from ticking down.
So he knows it's happening regardless.
Exactly. He isn't trying to trigger the gate by posting these clues. He is curating a trail. You have to remember, you can't unring the cosmic bell. He knows the reset is coming.
So he's just leaving breadcrumbs for anyone to find. That still seems like a massive risk.
He's not leaving them for just anyone, though. He is curating a trail for the right kind of mind.
The right kind of mind.
He knows that when the cycle inevitably begins again, when the environment starts to destabilize and the signs appear, someone is going to notice.
So she wants to be ready.
By leaving these encrypted notes, he is acting as a passive watcher. He wants to ensure that when the next person stumbles onto the truth, they have the context to understand it, rather than blindly triggering the system out of ignorance.
I see.
He's building a conceptual radiation suit for the next person to find, hoping they don't treat it like a bomb.
Okay, building a radiation suit instead of handing out matches. I like that. But the fatal flaw in leaving any kind of trail on the internet is that you can't control who solves the puzzle.
No, you cannot.
And that brings us right into the clash over the Bahama anomaly, where someone with massive resources and incredibly dangerous ambitions picks up Hale's trail.
The Bahama anomaly is the catalyst that really kicks the modern narrative into overdrive.
Breaking news hits every major network.
Right, a massive, perfectly geometric structure has been found underwater near the Great Bahama Bank.
Long rectangular blocks stretching across the seabed in these deliberate, non-natural lines. And the estimated geological dating of the site, approximately 12,000 years ago.
Right at the end of the Younger Dryas period.
Which is fascinating. For anyone unfamiliar, the Younger Dryas is a real heavily debated period in Earth's history.
It absolutely is.
Around 12,000 years ago, the planet was warming up from the Ice Age, and then suddenly temperatures plummeted drastically.
Megafauna went extinct. Human populations were bottlenecked.
It was a period of sudden, violent climate chaos. And the story takes this real-world anomaly and anchors its 12,000-year cosmic reset mechanism right on top of it.
It grounds the sci-fi in tangible Earth history, which I love.
It really works. And this Bahama discovery pulls in two incredibly compelling characters who represent opposite sides of a massive philosophical war over humanity's future.
We have Dr. Leland Margrave.
Yes, Margrave, a senior bureaucrat at NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
And we also have Nigel Ashwood, who poses as Margrave's assistant, but is actually a field agent for an ancient secret organization known as the Silent Order.
Okay, we need to talk about Margrave because he is a masterclass in hubris.
Oh, completely.
Publicly, he is the voice of calm, scientific consensus. He holds press conferences dismissing the Bahama anomaly as just a natural limestone formation.
He expertly wields the concept of pareidolia.
Yes, imagine looking at a cloud and seeing a dog, or looking at a piece of burnt toast and seeing a face.
Your brain is wired to find meaningful patterns in random noise.
And Margrave uses this real psychological phenomenon to basically gaslight the entire world.
He tells a room full of reporters, science is not the pursuit of romantic mystery. It is the discipline of removing illusion.
He weaponizes scientific rationality to keep the press and the public completely docile.
But privately. Margrave knows exactly what this is.
Because his lead analyst, Kate Vargas, manages to trace the trail left by Pillar 43.
And Margrave puts the pieces together. He looks at the global trajectory of modern civilization. Climate change, resource depletion, mass population displacement, supply chain collapse.
He sees humanity hurtling toward an inevitable cliff.
And because he is a man of science and bureaucracy, he looks at this cosmic reset button and he sees a battery.
Of a battery.
He realizes that if this system regulates extinction, it represents access to energy densities and structural control that completely defy physics.
Margrave wants to hijack the apocalypse machine.
He views the gate's infinite energy as the ultimate tool to save humanity from its own slow, grinding collapse.
This is where the thematic depth of the narrative really shines, because Margrave is looking at a system designed to regulate cosmic probability, and he thinks he can plug humanity into it.
It's madness.
It's like breaking into a maximum security prison, finding the central security camera system, and deciding the best way to hide is to shine a high-powered laser pointer directly into the lens. He thinks he's blinding the system, but he's actually sending a massive localized flare to the system administrators, saying, "Here we are. Come get us."
He is using linear, three-dimensional tools to solve exponential transdimensional problems.
And that is precisely the danger. Margrave is a modern reflection of the Atlantean high priest from the prologue.
Exactly. Margrave believes he can control the extinction cycle. He wants to master the system to guarantee human survival.
But that exact desire for control, that absolute certainty that his vision for the future is the only correct one, that is the very trigger for the cosmic correction.
It's so ironic. His attempt to save the world by mastering the gate is the exact input the lattice requires to initiate the dilution of our civilization.
The harder he tries to grip the steering wheel, the faster the car accelerates toward the wall.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Now, standing in direct opposition to Margrave is Nigel Ashwood and the Silent Order.
Right, the containment guy.
Their mandate is absolute containment. They have been watching these cycles for tens of thousands of years. Their core philosophy is that humanity must never know how close it lives to the edge of extinction.
The Silent Order operates on a very strict interpretation of quantum mechanics. Observation equals participation.
The moment a conscious mind perceives the pattern of the lattice, that mind becomes a variable in the experiment.
Therefore, the safest route for human survival is total enforced ignorance.
They suppress the data, they bury the anomalies, and they let the 12,000-year cycle pass quietly without triggering the overarching reset.
See, I have to challenge the morality of the Silent Order here. are they actually the good guys?
It's debatable.
Keeping the entire human race in the dark about the fundamental nature of reality, allowing history to be repeatedly wiped clean without giving humanity a chance to understand its own context.
They're enforcing a forced amnesia on the species.
That is a staggering level of intellectual tyranny. They are trapping us in a cycle of permanent infancy.
It is a profound ethical dilemma. And the story doesn't let either side off the hook. Yes, the Silent Order enforces a tyrannical amnesia. But look at the alternative they are fighting against.
Burgrave.
If they allow humanity to discover the truth, human nature dictates that someone like Margrave will inevitably try to exploit it for power or survival.
And that exploitation instantly triggers a complete deletion of the species.
Right. So, is it better to be free and risk total annihilation through our own hubris, or to be contained, ignorant, and safe?
It's the ultimate locked room puzzle. Margrave's interventionism dooms us, and the Order's containment enslaves us.
But while the billionaires, the bureaucrats, and the secret societies are warring over the fate of reality, the cosmic system itself is looking right past all of them.
It completely ignores the academics and the elites, and it locks onto the most unlikely variable imaginable.
It locks onto Doug Weapon.
I love Doug so much. He is the complete antithesis of the Chosen One trope.
Oh, 100%.
He doesn't have a glowing birthmark. He isn't a secret descendant of Atlantean kings. He is a municipal road worker in Cleveland, Ohio.
We need to spend some time looking at his life, because the mundanity of his existence is the entire point.
Yes, let's talk about Doug. He spends his days driving a salt truck, trying to stay ahead of the winter ice. He has Lake Erie-induced arthritis in his hands.
He plays the tactical shooter video game Valorant.
He stays up way too late playing Dungeons & Dragons with his buddies, Gordy, Mark, and Terry.
He is aggressively, unapologetically normal.
And the narrative meticulously traces how a man of such ordinary circumstances gets pulled into the center of a cosmic convergence.
It begins on the vernal equinox.
Doug wakes up choking, having experienced this profound nightmare of a green sky, falling white towers, and a black ocean.
And he sees a momentary flash of green light on his bedroom ceiling.
He tries to shake it off, obviously. He blames it on too much caffeine and a late-night D&D session, but the universe has its hooks in him.
He goes to a rummage sale.
Yes, and for $3 buys a cracked, leather-bound book called The Silent Gods and the Forgotten Ages.
Which is full of these faded annotations by a mysterious scholar, initialized EP.
EP, yeah. Doug takes this book to a woman he has a very quiet, very obvious crush on, Miranda Alden.
Miranda is such a vital component of this equation.
She is a brilliant, relentless archivist who runs the Blackwood Archive, an occult and rare bookstore.
She walked away from mainstream academia because of her thesis on pre-Sumerian continuity.
The idea that civilizations have repeatedly risen and collapsed in cycles.
Exactly. That thesis was deemed insufficiently restrained by her peers.
Which is code for crazy.
Basically. But she's the perfect foil to Doug. Yeah. Where he is reluctant and just wants to go home, she is driven by this burning need to know.
When Doug brings her the book, they discover the diagrams inside perfectly match the geometry of the newly discovered Bahama anomaly, as well as the suppressed site at Troy.
And this is when the seams of reality start to pull apart for Doug.
Let's talk about the symptoms of his alignment with the gate, because they are depicted brilliantly.
They aren't grand, magical visions of angels or demons. They are subtle, terrifying, perceptual glitches in his daily life.
Let's look at the physics of these glitches because they are terrifying once you understand what's actually happening. He's walking down Lorraine Avenue, and he looks into a puddle reflection.
Right.
There are 2 clouds in the reflection, but only one in the actual sky.
His brain is perceiving a localized superposition.
He is seeing 2 unresolved, competing timelines bleeding into each other. Later, he looks in the bookstore window and his reflection fractures. He sees 2 versions of himself overlapping on the street.
He experiences what he calls frame rate drops while driving his salt truck.
Traffic lights change from red to green without intermediate states, and cars skip forward in space.
Imagine you're driving home from work today, and the car in front of you doesn't drive forward. It just flashes out of existence and reappears 50 feet down the road, like a skipped frame in a buffering video.
That is exactly what Doug is experiencing. And perhaps the most mind-bending moment is when he boots up a game of Stellaris, a grand strategy space game.
Oh, this part gave me chills.
He realizes the procedurally generated galactic map on his computer monitor is aligning with real-world anomalous math.
The distances between the virtual star clusters are reflecting the exact golden ratios and node spacing of the Earth's containment grid.
The lattice is permeating every aspect of his perception, forcing him to see the foundational code of reality.
He literally says out loud to his empty room, "That's not real."
He's trying so hard to cling to his normal life. He even goes to his boss and asks for 2 weeks off, and it's the hardest thing he's ever done.
But this raises the core mystery of the entire deep dive. Why Doug?
Why does the cosmic lattice, this omnipotent probability matrix that deleted Atlantis, bypass brilliant minds like Greaves and Margrave, and lock onto a guy who fixes potholes?
This is where the narrative makes its most profound philosophical statement. The system is fascinated by Doug precisely because he does not want the power.
He lacks the certainty.
Exactly. Think about how kings, high priests, and ambitious scientists like Margrave approach the gate.
They approach it with the desire to extract its energy or command its outcomes.
They are filled with that toxic certainty that corrupts the lattice. They want to force the wave function to collapse in their favor.
Doug Weapon, conversely, literally just wants to go home, drink a beer, and play video games with his friends.
He is terrified of the scale of the universe.
His reluctance is his greatest qualification. He is a blank slate of probability, entirely devoid of the hubris that triggers the systemic correction.
Because he doesn't want to control reality, reality trusts him to hold it.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it. So we have this incredible gathering in Nassau. Doug, Miranda, Dr. Greaves, and Thomas Hale, who has finally come out of his 30-year hiding, all converge on the Bahamas.
They team up with a pilot named Maya Alvarez and take a small boat called the Riptide out over the anomaly.
And waiting for them there is Dr. Leland Margrave aboard the massive NOAA vessel, the Pacific Horizon.
Margrave has deployed a resonance array, a massive piece of hardware designed to feed energy directly into the submerged arch, hoping to interface with it and control the output.
Margrave shines the laser pointer directly into the cosmic security camera. He tries to force his certainty onto the system.
And the system responds.
The climax of the story is a visual and existential masterpiece. Margrave triggers the resonance scan, and the barrier between the three-dimensional physical world and the higher-dimensional probability matrix completely fails.
The honeycomb lattice bleeds out of the gate and violently overlays physical reality.
Doug is standing on the deck of the Riptide, and suddenly the ocean and the sky fracture into millions of glowing, pale blue hexagonal cells.
Each one of these cells represents a collapsing, competing timeline. Reality is literally trying to figure out which version of the future is going to stick.
It's absolute spatial chaos. At one point, Doug sees two completely different oceans trying to occupy the same physical space.
The Riptide and the Pacific Horizon are caught in this violent overlap of competing states.
Margrave's resonance array overloads catastrophically. The forward deck of the Pacific Horizon is obliterated in an explosion of violent physical rejection of Margrave's attempt to impose his own mastery on the system.
The system will not be mastered by force.
Doug looks at this collapsing honeycomb and realizes exactly what is happening. He says, "It's the double-slit experiment."
Let's explain this clearly because it's the linchpin of the entire climax.
Yes, let's break it down. In quantum physics, the double-slit experiment shows that a particle, like an electron, exists in a wave of multiple probabilities. It can go through a left slit, a right slit, or both simultaneously.
Right up until the moment a conscious observer measures it.
The very act of looking forces the universe to make a decision. The wave function collapses, and the particle locks into a single, definite state.
What we are witnessing above the Bahama anomaly is the double-slit experiment scaled up to the size of the entire universe.
The 12,000-year cycle has reached its terminus. The timelines are fracturing, competing, creating massive environmental and spatial instability.
The universe is in a state of quantum superposition. It needs to collapse into a single, stable outcome to survive the transition.
It needs a conscious observer. It needs someone to look at the probabilities and choose.
But it can't be someone who wants to dominate the outcome, because that leads to rigidity and triggers a reset.
It has to be Doug.
The system has differentiated him from everyone else. The resonance hum, which was a generalized vibration of dread for Greaves and Hale back in Troy, becomes highly specific for Doug.
It tunes to his frequency.
Doug realizes what he has to do.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking, because he knows it means giving up his humanity.
He takes a small launch boat and drives it directly into the glowing, impossible geometry of the archway.
As he crosses the threshold, the physical world, the ocean, the sky, the burning ships dissolves.
He is standing inside the lattice itself.
He is surrounded by billions of variations stacked and layered. And he sees the timelines.
He sees one cell, one outcome, where he just walks away. He goes back to Ohio, he plays video games, he has quiet mornings, coffee arguments, a normal, beautiful, mundane life.
He sees that he could choose that. The system would allow it.
But he also understands the cost of that choice. If he walks away, the system fails to stabilize.
The extinction event proceeds.
The world as he knows it, including Miranda, Greaves, Hale, and everyone he loves, is removed from the equation.
To save them, he has to become the anchor.
He finds the single stable cell where the Riptide survives, where Miranda is safe on the deck. He says, I think I'll take the job.
And he steps beyond the honeycomb.
He doesn't step into a specific future. He merges with the pattern itself. He sacrifices his mortal, three-dimensional life to become the stabilizing variable.
He becomes the observer.
This action links beautifully back to the broader lore of the narrative.
It really does. Doug's sacrifice mirrors an interlude we see from 36,000 years ago during the period known as the Fourth Silence.
In that era, a figure known only as the Custodian merged his consciousness with a gate to absorb the chaotic probabilities and save humanity from a comet impact.
The Custodian became the Silence. Now, 36,000 years later, Doug Weapon has become the new Custodian.
He has woven his consciousness into the architecture of the gate to hold reality together.
The ultimate reluctant hero.
A guy who just fixed roads becomes the foundational infrastructure of reality itself.
It's poetry, really.
It is. And that leaves us looking at the massive fallout of this convergence and what this all sets up for the sequel, Ripples in the Lattice.
The immediate aftermath is that the gate stabilizes. The extinction event is delayed or averted for this specific cycle.
Margrave's immediate plan to hijack the system is foiled, though he survives the destruction of his ship.
However, the paradigm has shifted permanently.
The knowledge is out there now. The Silent Order's core mission of total enforced secrecy is completely blown.
Margrave and NOAA know the system exists. They know it's a mechanism.
What is Margrave going to do now? He still believes the world is collapsing from climate change and resource depletion. Is he going to hunt for the other 4 nodes on the Earth grid?
Are we going to see a massive shadow war between a militarized NOAA and the remaining agents of the Silent Order?
I mean, Margrave views containment as a defensive failing posture. He still wants to harness that energy, and now he knows exactly what he's looking for.
And then we have the deeply personal stakes for Miranda.
Doug is now woven into the fabric of reality itself. How does that interaction work? Can she study the lattice to communicate with him?
Is Doug aware in a human sense, or has his consciousness been diluted into pure mathematics?
That is the big emotional hook for the sequel. Doug is the observer now, but what happens when the cosmic observer has a sense of humor and a deep, lingering affection for an archivist back in Cleveland?
Can a human consciousness maintain its shape when stretched across infinite probabilities?
But before we get to the sequel, the source material leaves us with one final, incredibly chilling detail.
High above the lattice, beyond the gates, beyond the watches of the Silent Order, there is an ancient entity observing the entire scope of reality.
Being referred to as Abraxas, described in ancient texts as a cosmic principle, the union of opposites, essentially the manager of the universe itself.
Abraxas was watching this entire experiment unfold.
And Abraxas notes that this cycle was fundamentally different. Doug Weapon didn't behave like the High Priests Atlantis or the Kings of the Past cycles.
He didn't try to conquer the gate. He submitted to it to save others.
Abraxas recognizes that a completely new kind of variable has been introduced into the cosmic experiment, and that means the rules of the next cycle might be entirely unprecedented.
It completely recontextualizes the human struggle. Humanity thinks it is fighting for its own survival, but to beings like Abraxas, we are merely inputs in a vast, ongoing calculation.
Doug hasn't just saved the world, he has permanently changed the math of the universe.
He absolutely has.
And it leaves us with so much to chew on as we look at our own world. We've spent this entire time talking about the danger of certainty, the hubris of wanting to control nature, and the sheer terror of the universe correcting our arrogance.
But there is something else to consider.
Yes, I want to leave you, our listener, with a slightly different thought to mull over as you go about your day. Think about Doug's glitches.
The double clouds in the puddle, or the cars skipping forward in space, like dropped frames.
We dismiss these things in our own lives all the time. Have you ever experienced a moment that just didn't fit? A memory shared with a sibling where you both remember completely different outcomes.
The phenomena we casually call the Mandela effect.
Or maybe you're driving down a highway you've driven 100 times, and for a split second, a building you know is there just isn't. We call it a trick of the light. We call it fatigue.
But what if it isn't?
What if those tiny, unsettling moments where reality feels thin aren't failures of your brain, but moments where your consciousness is accidentally brushing up against the lattice?
What if you are perceiving a localized correction, a timeline being aggressively stitched back together by someone holding the seams?
The next time you see something that defies logic for just a fraction of a second, ask yourself if you're just tired or if you're standing a little too close to the edge of the operating system.
It's a haunting thought. We might be swimming in corrections every single day and never noticing the ripples.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and maybe appreciate the potholes in your road. The person fixing them might just be holding the universe together.